Hi there, thanks for joining us. My name's Samantha Hancock, I'm the Cyber Protect Officer for Leicestershire Police. Later, after this webinar, Detective Sergeant Charles Edwards from the Cybercrime team will be dealing with questions. We're wanting to help give you advice on protecting your business from cybercrime, and over the next few slides we'll be going through some of the most commonplace things that are happening currently that you need to be aware of, and give you some ideas for training staff to help reduce vulnerability. So what are cybercrime and cybersecurity? These terms we hear quite a lot of, but not everybody is sure what they are. Cybercrime can be defined as criminal activities carried out by means of computers or the internet, and cybersecurity is or can be defined as protecting yourself, your organisation and your customers in today's interconnected world through people, process and technology. Where is the risk? Well, it can either be deliberate and targeted, and in here we include organised criminals, investigative journalists, hacktivists, extremists and competitors possibly. However, closer to home and with more potential, we'd ask you to recognise what we call insider threat. Some examples would be disgruntled and overlooked staff, former employees, poor systems admin in relation to role change or leavers, staff under duress, but more commonly we're finding staff with a lack of awareness of cyber issues around things like malware and ransomware. PBX dial-through fraud I'd like to talk about now. PBX is a private branch exchange, and it's a system which enables organisations improved communications. This type of fraud occurs when hackers target the system from the outside and then use them to make a high volume of calls to premium rate or overseas numbers. Since the end of June in 2013, there have been almost 500 action fraud reports relating to this type of crime, costing victims over £6 million. Unfortunately, victims are liable for the cost of the calls because these have been made from their system, even though they might not have been made by the organisation or its staff. There are a number of things we can do in order to secure these systems, and these include restricting access to premium lines and overseas numbers where these are not required, disabling access to voicemail from outside if this is not required, ensuring password or PIN numbers are not basic such as 1234 or 000. You should discuss your security options with your system or service provider. What is phishing? Well, in a nutshell, it's a con. Emails can be very easily spoofed so that they look like they come from official organisations, suppliers, competitors, even within the organisation itself. Using email or websites with malicious code or links and attachments can install malware onto your system. They are often very convincing emails, but almost with a sense of urgency or action required. Examples in everyday life are banking scams, tax refunds, and issues with Amazon or Apple accounts or purchases. But we need you to be aware, it's not just emails that can be spoofed. There are two examples here of text messages which are spoofs, and if you receive a text message from an organisation that you do normally deal with, unfortunately these fake messages will actually go into the folders with your legitimate ones. And bear in mind that phone numbers can easily be spoofed too. If we think back 6 or 7 years, those of us that had mobile phones then, you used to get calls from random numbers, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Cardiff, Brighton, you name it. Basically, most of us would be tending to ignore these calls because we don't know anybody in that location. If you think, you may realise that of late you get more local calls such as 01509, 0116. These aren't really coming from local numbers, they've just ascertained whereabouts you are and they're spoofing a more local number to you in the hope that you'll pick the call up. So what is our advice? Never assume any contact to be genuine. Trust your instinct, not the caller, the text or the email. It's really important that we train staff to understand that seeing is not necessarily believing and everything should be verified. Ransomware. This has been a particular hot topic this year with the issues there were in May and June with NotPetya and the WannaCry issues. There are two main types of ransomware, lock screen and encryption. The top example here is what we used to call the police virus, where it locks your screen and demands a payment in a Ucash voucher and says that you've been accessing illegal material. The second type is where your files are encrypted on your device, and if you're on a network, quite possibly the network too. Basically, you'll not have access to your file or your device to be able to continue working. The crooks have the decryption key, which generally is bought from them over the dark web using bitcoins. They'll send a ransom, but bear in mind, one bitcoin is currently worth just over £2,500. Unfortunately, ransomware generally occurs when a link in an email or an email attachment is opened, allowing the malware to be installed. Our advice: you need to ensure that you have regular backups, including at least one that is non-cloud, but most importantly, we need to exercise extreme caution with email links and attachments. These can be spoofed to look harmless, such as an Excel spreadsheet or a web link, when in actual fact it's an executable file that you are clicking on and running, which installs the malware. All reports should be made to management and IT immediately if anything like this happens. What I would like to draw your attention to is a free decryption code site which has been put together by Europol. The site is nomoreransom.org. Currently, there are approximately 40 decryption keys on here that are readily available, but we must bear in mind that we still need to exercise caution because the crooks generally tend to be one step ahead as they're developing new code all the time and we're playing catch up. Another issue that is quite prevalent at the moment is Chief Executive Officer fraud. This is also known as spear phishing or whaling. It's when fraudsters impersonate the company director, CEO, CFO or similar, somebody in authority, and they'll instruct a member of the company's finance department or junior member of staff to transfer funds. The type of reasons given may be that it's in respect of a discrete or sensitive acquisition. It might be in relation to unpaid invoices, monies owed, or a new potential business interest. The contact often states that they are unable to speak, so will need to engage via email, and this frequently occurs when that person is away from the office, sort of information that's gleaned from social media posts such as holiday updates, etc. An example here. This is a copy of an email that was received by an East Midlands company. Good day, hope you are having a nice day. Please, I will need you to take care of a financial obligation for me today. What are the required information need for you to process a wire bank transfer? Personally, I'd say that was quite a poor attempt. However, this was received by a member of support staff from a senior manager within an organisation where over £12,000 was paid out, completely unquestioned, within 20 minutes of receipt of that email. You need to be aware that this money cannot be claimed back as the bank have carried out the instruction correctly on the instruction that they received, so they're not going to cover the loss. In this particular example, we can see poor grammar and US terminology. These are an example of the sort of things we need to be training staff to be aware of and have policies in place to ensure that this cannot happen. Another issue currently affecting local businesses is invoice direction fraud. Fraudsters will pose as a supplier or creditor who will advise that their bank details have changed. A bogus instruction is created. We need to be alert to these. The requests can come via email, letter or telephone and likely to appear genuine with the correct logos, etc. You are asked to settle all future invoices to a new sort code and account number. The funds, of course, are paid straight to the fraudster, and when the next invoice is due, be warned, the original debt to the genuine supplier will still stand. You have given the bank an instruction, they will not cover that loss, and you will still be liable to cover the cost of the original debt. So we ask you to protect your business. Challenge all requests to amend payment account details. Contact the supplier or creditor to independently verify the request, and do not use any contact details within the request because obviously they're going to be fake as well. And make sure that all of your staff are aware of this type of fraud. So what can we do to protect ourselves and our businesses? There are some simple cost-free basics. It's absolutely critical that we use supported operating systems only. If you're still using Vista or XP, you need to upgrade immediately as these no longer receive security patches from Microsoft. Antivirus software and firewalls are a must. Any internet-enabled device should have antivirus installed, and yes, this includes Apple devices. Check that firewalls are installed. On XP upwards from Microsoft, they're set as a default, but go into your settings and check, make sure they've not been disabled. As a safety net, we'd recommend anti-spyware and anti-malware software. If you're using a paid-for service in terms of antivirus, the spyware and malware software are generally included. If you're using free software, firstly you need to check that you are actually covered to use that because it's not usually available for commercial purposes, but you'd also be advised to ensure that you install spyware and malware software, as free antivirus tends to be just that on its own. Critically, all of the above should be updated as soon as you are alerted to new versions or patches being made available. Password security. The current best practice from GCHQ advises a minimum of 3 random words. To add complexity, you can convert letters to numbers and add special characters, as seen in the examples here. Bear in mind that your single most important account and password is that of your email. Effectively, anybody taking control of your email can then reset all your other passwords, locking you out. It is absolutely vital that we use different passwords for different accounts, and we appreciate this can cause problems in terms of remembering them all. Why not consider installing a password manager? These are safe and secure to use, and your information is encrypted within this vault. Alternatively, what you could consider doing is writing down username and password hints, but never ever write passwords down in full. It's also really important that we don't use words, names or information that is available through the public domain or easily worked out from social media content. Information such as mother's maiden name, dates and place of birth, etc. are easily available through ancestry sites and public records, and we need to make sure that our passwords don't contain this identifiable information. You should always change default passwords on all smart devices, basically anything that connects to the internet, even if you don't use it for accessing the internet directly. For example, things like Hive heating, smart kettles, etc. You should replace this for a unique password, again using the 3 random words. You should also consider changing your password on your Wi-Fi router for something that is not a default password. A reminder that you should always log out of sites you've logged into, especially on shared or public devices or machines. Your login session does not end by pressing the close browser button. If you've logged in, log out. It's rather important that we're aware of data breaches and protecting our data. You're far more likely to be involved in a data breach than you are to be hacked. And to this end, we'd advise using haveibeenpwned.com. This website allows you to check if your personal data has been compromised in a data breach. Enter your email address and it'll advise you if there are any breaches it is aware of, and you will then need to visit those platforms and change your password. Why not opt for the Notify Me service, and then you'll be advised in real time in the future whenever there's an issue with compromised data. A little reminder, GDPR, are you ready? Is your organisation ready? The changes come into effect at the end of May 2018, and despite Brexit, these regulations will still come into force, and you need to be ready. The ICO has a huge range of really helpful information, advice and guides, and would strongly urge you to take a look at those. Another thing that we'd advise you to join in on is the CISP. What is it? It's a joint industry and government initiative set up to exchange cyber threat information in real time in a secure, confidential and dynamic environment. It allows you to engage with industry and government counterparts in a secure environment. You'll receive early warning of cyber threats. It'll give you the ability to learn from experiences, mistakes and successes of other users and seek advice. An improved ability to protect the company network as a result, and an access to a free network monitoring reports tailored to your organisation's requirements. And finally, a little word on Cyber Essentials. It's a government initiative that defines clear, cost-effective controls, demonstrates ability and assurance, and proves organised resilience in terms of the cyber field. The costs are capped. The cost is generally between £250 and £4,000, depending on your business size. It's a requirement for government contracts, particularly if you're wanting to trade with the NHS, education, etc. It's an absolutely brilliant framework to help you assess your own cyber capabilities and vulnerabilities and give you ideas on where you need to improve. So to conclude, here are some of the websites that I'd recommend having a look at, that I signpost to on a regular basis in order to increase your own cyber awareness, to help keep you safe online as well as your organisation. And then finally, our contact details again. We're very keen to work and support local businesses in raising cybercrime awareness amongst their staff. We're happy for our materials to be used. If you'd like some more help or information, or would like to discuss an event or a talk, please do contact us.